Hey guys, Lord Naren White here, the Holy Ghost, the one true God. Back with you with the next video in my series reading Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens. Without further ado, returning to Oliver Twist as read by Lord Naren White. So give us the bundle, said Noah, unstrapping it from the woman's shoulders and slinging it over his own. And don't you speak except when you're spoken to. What's the name of the house? Three what? Cripples, said Charlotte. 3 cripples, repeated Noah. And a very good sign, too. Now then, keep close at my heels and come along. With these injunctions, he pushed the rattling door with his shoulder and entered the house, followed by his companion. There was nobody in the bar but a young Jew who, with his 2 elbows on the counter, was reading a dirty newspaper. He stared very hard at Noah, and Noah stared very hard at him. If Noah had been attired in his charity boy's dress, there might have been some reason for the Jew opening his eyes so wide, but as he had discarded the coat and badge, and wore a short smock frock over his leathers, there seemed no particular reason for his appearance exciting so much attention in a public house. "Is this the 3 cripples?" asked Noah. "That is the dab of this house," replied the Jew. "A gentleman we met on the road, coming up from the country, recommended us here," said Noah, nudging Charlotte, perhaps to call her attention to this most ingenious device for attracting respect, and perhaps to warn her to betray no surprise. "We want to sleep here tonight." "I'm not certain you can," said Barney, who was the attending sprite, "but I'll inquire." "Show us the tap, and give us a bit of cold meat and a drop of beer while you're inquiring, will you?" said Noah. Barney complied by ushering them into a small back room, and setting the required viands before them. Having done which, he informed the travelers that they could be lodged that night, and left the amiable couple to their refreshment. Now, this back room was immediately behind the bar, and some steps lower, so that any person connected with the house, undrawing a small curtain which concealed a single pane of glass fixed in the wall of the last named apartment, about 5 feet from its flooring, could not be observed to look down upon any guest in the back room, without any great hazard of being observed. The glass being in a dark angle of the wall, between which and a large upright beam the observer had to thrust himself, but could, by applying his ear to the partition, ascertain with tolerable distinctness their subject of conversation. The landlord of the house had not withdrawn his eye from this place of espial for 5 minutes, and Barney had only just returned from making the communication above related, when Fagin, in the course of his evening's business, came into the bar to inquire after some of his young pupils. "Hush!" said Barney. "Strategers in the next roob." "Strangers," replied the old man in a whisper. "Ah, I'd rubbed out us too," added Barney, "from the country, but something in your way, or I'd be mistaked." Fagin appeared to receive this communication with great interest. Mounting a stool, he cautiously applied his eye to the pane of glass, from which secret post he could see Mr. Claypole taking his cold beef from the dish, and porter from the pot, and administering homeopathic doses of both to Charlotte, who sat patiently by, eating and drinking at his pleasure. "Aha!" he whispered, looking round to Barney. "I like that fellow's looks. He'd be of use to us. He knows how to train the girl already. Don't make as much noise as a mouse, my dear, and let me hear him talk. Let me hear him." He again applied his eye to the glass, and turning his ear to the partition, listened attentively with a subtle and eager look upon his face that might have appertained to some old goblin. "So I mean to be a gentleman," said Mr. Claypole, kicking out his legs, and continuing a conversation, the commencement of which Fagin had arrived too late to hear. "No more jolly old coffin, Charlotte, but a gentleman's life for me, and, if you're like, you shall be a lady." "I should like that well enough, dear," replied Charlotte, "but tills ain't to be emptied every day, and people to get clear of after that." "Tills be blowed," said Mr. Claypole. "There's more things besides tills to be emptied." "What do you mean?" asked his companion. "Pockets, women's ridicules, houses, mail coaches, banks," said Mr. Claypole, rising with the porter. But you can't do all that, dear, said Charlotte. I shall look out to get into company with them as can, replied Noah. They'll be able to make us useful some way or another. Why, you yourself are worth 50 women. I never see such a precious sly and deceitful creature as you can be when I let you. Lor, how nice it is to hear you say so, exclaimed Charlotte, imprinting a kiss upon his ugly face. There, that'll do. Don't you be too affectionate in case I'm cross with you, said Noah, disengaging himself with great gravity. I should like to be the captain of some band and have the whooping of 'em, and following 'em about unbeknown to themselves. That would suit me. If there was good profit, and if we could only get in with some gentleman of this sort, I say it would be cheap at that £20 note you've got, especially we don't very well know how to get rid of it ourselves. After expressing this opinion, Mr. Claypool looked into the porter pot with an aspect of deep wisdom, and having well shaken its contents, nodded condescendingly to Charlotte, and took a draught wherewith he appeared greatly refreshed. He was meditating another when the sudden opening of the door and the appearance of a stranger interrupted him. The stranger was Mr. Fagin, and very amiable he looked, and a very low bow he made as he advanced, and setting himself down at the nearest table, ordered something to drink off the grinning Barney. A pleasant night, sir, but cool for the time of year, said Fagin, rubbing his hands. From the country, I see, sir? How do you see that? Asked Noah Claypool. We have not so much dust as that in London, replied Fagin, pointing from Noah's shoes to those of his companion, and from them to the 2 bundles. You're a sharp feller, said Noah. Ha ha! Only hear that, Charlotte. Why, one need to be sharp in this town, my dear, replied the Jew, sinking his voice to a confidential whisper, and that's the truth. Fagin followed up this remark by striking the side of his nose with his right forefinger, a gesture which Noah attempted to imitate, though not with complete success, in consequence of his own nose being large enough for the purpose. However, Mr. Fagin seemed to interpret the endeavor as expressing a perfect coincidence with his opinion, and put about the liquor which Barney reappeared with in a very friendly manner. Good stuff, that, observed Mr. Claypool, smacking his lips. Dear, said Fagin, a man need be always emptying a till, or a pocket, or a woman's reticule, or a house, or a mail coach, or a bank, if he drinks it regularly. Mr. Claypool no sooner heard this extract from his own remarks than he fell back in his chair and looked from the Jew to Charlotte with a countenance of ashy paleness and excessive terror. Don't mind me, my dear, said Fagin, drawing his chair closer. Ha ha! It was lucky. It was only heard that you by heard you by chance. It was very lucky. It was only me. I didn't take it, stammered Noah, no longer stretching out his legs like an independent gentleman, but coiling them up as well as he could under his chair. It was all her doing. You've got it now, Charlotte. You know you have. No matter who's got it or who did it, my dear, replied Fagin, glancing nevertheless with a hawk's eye at the girl and the 2 bundles. I'm in that way myself, and I like you for it. In what way? Asked Mr. Claypool, a little recovering. In that way of business, rejoined Fagin, and so are the people of the house. You've hit the right nail upon the head, and are as safe here as you could be. There is not a safer place in all this town than is the Cripples, that is, when I like to make it so, and I have taken a fancy to you and the young woman, and so I've said the word, and you may make your minds easy. Noah Claypool's mind might have been at ease after this assurance, but his body certainly was not, for he shuffled and writhed about into various uncouth positions, eyeing his new friend meanwhile with mingled fear and suspicion. I'll tell you more, said Fagin, after he had reassured the girl, by dint of friendly nods and muttered encouragements. I have got a friend that I think I can gratify your darling wish, and put you in the right way, where you can take whatever department of the business you think will suit you best at first, and be taught all the others. You speak as if you were an interest, replied Noah. What advantage would it be to me to be anything else? Inquired Fagin, shrugging his shoulders. Here, let me have a word with you outside. There's no occasion to trouble ourselves to move, said Noah, getting his legs by gradual degrees abroad again. She'll take the luggage upstairs the while, Charlotte. See them to bundles. And we'll go ahead and stop there for this week. As usual, I want to say thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Please like, comment, and subscribe, as it greatly helps the channel. Light be with you all. Take care, and thanks again.